I've started off just speaking about Agenda 21 2030, and since then it's just escalated into an absolute free-for-all, and it looks to me as though the UK is up for sale to the highest bidder, and everything's being sold off to massive corporations, corporatising everything, and we are the losers in all of this, and that's what my PowerPoint is about today. It's about how we're being robbed, and it fits so well into what David was talking about, and all the other speakers who are talking about how we have to claw back our sovereignty and really fight this with all our might, because if we don't, everything that we hold dear will be lost forever. And when I look into the eyes of my grandchildren, I personally cannot allow that to happen, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And children and grandchildren, it is about the children. That lovely man Mark that spoke earlier almost bring tears to my eyes, actually, because it's the children. Sorry, let's get on to another subject. Okay, right, here we are. Anyway, let's get on to the hard facts, which are hard to swallow sometimes, but someone's got to do it. And we are, we've got the benefit of these wonderful people here who are all speaking the truth, and all of you guys who come along and support it and act on it as well. And we're creating this army of amazing people, and we will win this. We will win this. We have been robbed, really. And where is our tax going? And what the annual costs are, and I do have a slide which will come up later, about the annual cost of, for instance, devolution. At the moment, it runs at 443 million per year, but that's work in progress, so it will actually end up being so much more. On environmentalism, restrictions, and the changes to the way that we're being forced to live due to this environmental, I call it eco-fascism, that amounts to 96 plus billion a year in the UK. It's astronomical. Agricultural decline because our farmers are our farming is being destroyed. That is about 3 to 6 billion a year, only since 2023. All of this is money that is being spent really against what we believe in. We're not asked about all of this. We have to go along with it because they enforce it at the moment. And with our taxes and all of that, it's unbelievable what we're having to put up with. I don't know if many of you know, but whoever's been following me for all these years, I'm now working with UK Column on a regular basis. I used to dip in and out. I'm now broadcasting with Mike Robinson and Charles Mallet on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I'm with UK Column. And it's great to be working with them. And we had an amazing, we had a wonderful conference a couple of weeks ago in Cheltenham. And we held it in Cheltenham because it was, it's GCHQ, and the subject was deep state. And we had Catherine Gunn. Now, I don't know if anybody knows about Catherine Gunn. Wonderful woman who in 2003, she was working at GCHQ, and she was an interpreter, and she got an email through, and it was from the CIA, and she worked out that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and she knew that she had to make this public, and she did. She leaked it to the press, and she got taken to the High Court under the Official Secrets Act, and because she decided to plead innocent, not guilty. They couldn't take her to court because they had actually committed treason, the government had, and they couldn't prosecute her. They had to let her go. But Tony Blair still took us into an illegal war. But she is a heroine, that woman. She's amazing. And we had her, and we had some fabulous people. We had Alex from UK Column, Alex Thompson, and he worked for GCHQ. And it was a fantastic day of deep state stuff. And we had Raja Mir, the wonderful Raja Mir, who blew the whistle on the grooming gangs in up north in Rotherham. He's a Muslim chap himself, and he realised that there was something horribly wrong, and that they were using, they weren't bringing it out because the government needed the votes from the Muslim. So our young women were sacrificed to get votes, and that's what he blew the whistle on. Amazing man, very brave. Now, you're probably aware of this. This is the World Economic Forum. You'll know nothing and be happy, and this is what they want, obviously, from us. Next slide. Now, I was talking about this. This is where all our money goes. Devolution, if it comes. Now, does anybody really understand what devolution is? Put your hands up if you do. You see, it's all been very, very kept quiet from us. So I'm going to talk about it today, because when I speak to politicians about this, they are aghast. Even politicians don't know about this. There was we did an event in where was it? It was in Gloucestershire a couple of months ago with Charles Mallet and some amazing people. And the MP for the Cotswolds came, Sir somebody Clifton Brown, lovely man, and his wife had dragged him there kicking and screaming. She's very awake. And afterwards, after my talk, he said, "I can't believe what you're saying." He said, I've kind of intuited that what they're doing for many, many years, but I didn't know until you told me. So there's good people in our parliament, and we need to wake them up. Anyway, so devolution. This is the cost that devolution will cost. Right, next one, please. Yeah, in the Western world, we've got the most. We're the poorest country now. We're poorer than the poorest state in the United States, which is Mississippi, in the UK. In the Western world, we have the most expensive housing stock, we have the highest energy bills, we have the highest cost of living, the lowest minimum wages, the poorest healthcare, the lowest state pensions and benefits, and the highest taxes. So that's the reality of the world we're living in the UK. Next one, please. This is deliberate. It's a deliberate destruction. I mean, when I started looking at Agenda 21 as it was then, before 2015, Maurice Strong from the United Nations said at the Earth Summit, the West has to be destroyed, and it's our job to do this, to destroy the West, and that's exactly what is happening. He was doing it under climate change, and so the transfer of public funds is going into the hands of corporate entities, and this is all part and parcel of Agenda 2030. If you can join the dots with me, stick with me, because it's quite difficult to get your head around. And it's decades of legislation enabling this transfer of power and money, and it's accelerating. Environmentalism, regulations, land grab. We're looking at biodiversity net gain. Environmental and social governance, all of that is almost like carbon credits that they want to tax us on. It's like transferring the economy into these carbon related financial instruments. We've got devolution. We've got the free zone and free ports that I'm sure nobody knows about. I spoke about this on the column about 2 weeks ago. It's the free ports and the free zones that are appearing in our country that are not under UK jurisdiction. They are like the City of London. They are privately owned, corporation-run ports and zones within our country where we don't know what is coming in and out, and there is no legal jurisdiction of the UK over these areas. And it's a bit like in the City of London, they have their own police force, they have their own jurisdiction. It's like creating that in the UK, all over. So this is what we're looking at. And of course, we've got mass immigration. Next slide, please. There's a number of ways they're bringing this in, this takeover of everything by corporate control. We've got devolution. We've got the C40 cities, which if you don't know about them, I'll be talking about them a bit later. The C40 cities are really a body that have given birth to the global covenant of mayors for climate and energy. Now, these mayors, I'll tell you about these mayors in a minute, but really, you've got this whole global landscape that they've created. And it's of economics and governance. And the term corporate fascism has emerged as a controversial yet increasingly relevant descriptor for the entangled relationships between large corporations, financial institutions, and political entities. A form of governance exists where corporate interests dominate and dictate public policy, often at the expense of democratic values and individual freedoms. This phenomenon is all too prevalent in today's world, especially in the arena of globalism as promoted by the World Economic Forum and the EU, and I'd say the UN. This diagram explores how these relationships create paradigms and behaviours detrimental to citizens, highlighting key examples, theories and psychological manipulation involved in maintaining this power. And really we've got, it started off with climate action in the early 2000s after the Earth Summit, where they put all the restrictions in for anthropogenic global warming being the driver for control, and we know that. So they then set up the C40 cities, which was to bring this in, to bring this governance under the guise of saving the planet. This is how we do it. We use the C40 cities. And of course, you've got transnational government networks, which aligns with policies of net zero and sustainable development goals. All of that is coming to every single town council in our land under ICLEI, the International Committee for Environmental and Local Initiatives. So they've adopted, every single council in our country has adopted a climate emergency. Under what guise? There's just nothing there. The science isn't there. There's nothing. It's all about global control. And the C40 cities have given birth to these mayors for climate and energy. Now, I'd ask everyone to look at the mayors for the covenant of global mayors for climate and energy, because these guys are waiting in the wings to take over all the power from Westminster, and I'll tell you about that later. And they've got lots of big plans, decarbonisation plans and climate finance. And the implications for the people is basically democratic erosion, technocratic control, fragmentation of national sovereignty, social engineering. And the key factors, the key actors in this, originally it was Ken Livingstone and Michael Bloomberg, from the Bloomberg Foundation in New York, who started all this off with the Clinton Climate Initiative. And then we've got devolution coming with the transfer of power from Westminster to these metro mayors and the combined authorities. And the implications for the people is, again, democratic erosion, technocratic control, and the fragmentation of national sovereignty. So, next slide, please. What does devolution really mean for the UK? Well, the hard sell is that this system will give more power to local communities and improve local economies. The myth is that net zero will create jobs and growth, but the truth is expensive energy costs are destroying high productivity industries like chemicals, petrochemicals, ceramics and steel. Green energy jobs are destroying real jobs at a cost of around £150 million a year. £150,000 per year per job. The National Grid have announced 112 billion in spending on the grid expansion by 2035, which will also find its way onto our bills. Ed Miliband wants to spend 260 to 290 billion by 2030 on his clean power plan to save only around 7 billion a year of the money we spend on gas-fired generation. This will lead to so much poverty and top-down control. So net zero, what devolution means for the UK is net zero restrictions, such as more ULEZ, more low-traffic neighbourhoods, 15-minute cities, 20-mile-an-hour zones, increased surveillance, bans on gas and wood-burning stoves, higher carbon taxation, enforced retrofitting in our homes, banning of wood-burning stoves and gas appliances. One potential scenario is the enforcement of geofencing and climate lockdowns. Next slide, please. really, devolution came from the Cities and Devolution Act 2016, and it got updated in 2024 in the devolution white paper. Do look at these. I know it's boring looking at government documents, but the only way I found out about this, and all the MPs I spoke to hadn't bothered to look at it either, is that the main acts of this provision are devolving powers from UK government to some of England's towns and cities and counties. That's what they're saying it is. They're introducing directly elected mayors to combined authorities. Now, is anybody living in a place where their local council has become a combined authority? Does anybody? Yeah. So what this means is that we used to have 360 odd town councils, and they're trying to sort of amalgamate them all into bigger zones. And the idea is eventually, and I'll be getting onto this in a minute, is to make these to only have about 7 or 8 regions in the UK, and in each of these regions will be one of these mayors for climate and energy. Now, these mayors for climate and energy will hold ultimate power, more power than Westminster. Westminster will be toast. So let's stay with me. So basically, they're going to grant these mayors unlimited power over planning and housing, but more as well, allowing mayors to replace police and crime commissioners, and removing statutory limitations imposed by central government on local authorities. These mayors will have significant authority bypassing Westminster to achieve the goal of net zero by 2030. They will be focused on achieving these goals with control over local budgets, including health and social care. The Global Covenant of Mayors for Energy and Climate, along with the Devolution White Paper, indicate that the primary objective of the mayors is to achieve net zero emissions by 2030 to 2050. So whether you like it or not, the money is going to be spent not on we the people. It's going to be spent on all this net zero nonsense. This is their mandate. Next one, please. Do look this up. This is the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, where these directly elected mayors are not directly elected by us. They are just put in positions of power. This is totally undemocratic. And the councils are becoming unitary. Town and parish councils are being amalgamated in what's called regionalisation. This will result in you as an individual taken away from the decision-making process of your council. They will be governed by the C40 Cities Global Covenant of Smart City Mayors, or Mayors for Climate and Energy. They will have the right to impose climate lockdowns at will and many, many other regulations that we may or may not agree with. But we haven't had a choice whether we get these mayors or not. Who are they? So next one, please. This is the C40 Cities. This is quite an interesting, it started in October 2025 when Mayor Ken Livingstone convened the representatives of 18 megacities to forge an agreement on cooperatively reducing climate pollution. It's since morphed into a full-blown race to net zero carbon emissions. Climate Leadership Group of 96 countries have joined this, and the main driver in implementing net zero through the C40 Mayors, or Covenant of Mayors, sometimes called directly elected mayors, elected not by you but by the WEF. These smart city mayors will have the powers over elected parliament in much the same way that the City of London mayor, not to be confused with the Mayor of London, has a power over our parliament. These mayors are unelected by the people in these cities. Sadiq Khan is the chairman of the C40 Cities Initiative. New York's Mayor Michael Bloomberg, or former mayor, is the board president. The C40 is positioning cities as a leading force of climate action around the world. They've even come up with a planetary diet, the C40 cities, and it ends up with us literally going back to World War II rationing. So do look at the C40's planetary diet. I haven't included it because I just thought I'd mention it. Right, next one, please. Right, this is Tony Blair's, see the colourful map there? That's Tony Blair's federal UK map that he created in 1998, which is becoming a reality under devolution. The plan is represented as a significant benefit. It may have the opposite effect, though, well, it will. It's claimed that it will empower local areas by transferring authority from Westminster. Ultimately, the power will reside in mayors who are mandated to achieve net zero targets, regardless of public preference. The goal is to divide the county councils into approximately 7 regions across the UK. This being achieved through subtle financial adjustments to council budgets. Now, I won't go into the shenanigans of that, but it's very, very deceptive. What they've done is they've taken money away from councils when they become unitary, and then they've upped the precepts of some of the parish councils. So you end up paying for services twice. But what it does is it deliberately bankrupts the unitary councils. Now, and this is in order for them to be how can you say it? Blackmailed into devolution. Now, you will understand this, David. I'm hoping you're taking this one because I can see your brain going like this. Because this is really important, because I don't understand the process of that, but that is what appears to be happening. Now, you've got these combined authorities. Now, that's showing you the map that we have now for combined authorities. And this is Tony Blair's map. Now, what's really interesting is in Tony Blair's map, you've got the county of Wessex, and my county councils have amalgamated Somerset, Dorset, and Wiltshire into the heart of Wessex County. So this is a reality. This is happening. And we need to be very aware of this, because they're selling it as a benefit to you. Oh, we're taking it away from those awful politicians in Westminster. We're giving you the power. No, they are not. They are not giving you the power. They're taking your power away. And they're going to literally take power over everything. Housing, social care, but even police and crime commissioning. I mean, the police and crime commissioners will go. The politicians will go. And if only they all knew this, would they be voting? It's like turkeys voting for Christmas. I just don't get it. Anyway, next one, please. Now, this is a really interesting thing that came up with, it came to my notice, about these special economic zones that have been set up really since Brexit. Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss put this together. And these areas don't function like normal ports. These are Britain's free ports. They're called SEZs, Special Economic Zones, often operate with their own legal frameworks, including bespoke tax codes, labour laws, environmental regulations and planning rules, effectively creating a state within a state in the UK. This legal firewall allows corporations and foreign investors to bypass national standards and democratic oversight. So the result is that corporations gain de facto governance powers, including the ability to shape the zone's policies, infrastructures and policing, sometimes even education and health systems. So the free ports, we don't know, they don't come under customs. Anything can flow through these. Drugs, humans, children, whatever you like, can flow through these ports, and they're owned by big money, big corporations, and there's lots of backhanders going to and fro. So we will become even more corrupt, if it's possible, than we are now. So we have to somehow stop this. I don't know how. Hopefully there's people here with the answers, because I don't. I just do the research and I find out what the hell's happening, and for me it's overwhelming. Absolutely unbelievable what's happening. Now, apart from the free ports, next slide, please. We've got the free zones, which at the moment seem to be up north. North East, Tees Valley, South Yorkshire, East Midlands, Greater Manchester, Liverpool, West Midlands, but they're trying to increase these free zones, and the same rules apply to these zones. So perhaps by, I don't know when, they want the whole of the UK to be this free market, free-for-all for the corporations to clear up. And we will be in poverty. And I just want to remind people about, next slide. Remind people about the Absolute Zero document that I've published for a long time. Next slide. From page 4 of that is, no planes by 2049. And this really is if you can look it up, it's called the Absolute Zero document, UK Fires Absolute Zero document, and it's about how we will be impoverished by all these net zero, absolute zero restrictions. And everyone knows, who knows anything, is that if we get to absolute zero carbon CO2, it means death, doesn't it? And so really it's about destroying everything that we hold dear. Or everything that keeps us in abundance and fed and healthy, everything. So in that document, it talks about sort of the whole taking away of our industry, and housing. Costs will go up because they're deeming that things like concrete can't be used. So what will happen to building? I mean, they're talking about increasing all our housing stock. Who's going to live in these houses? I think we've got a good idea who's going to live in these houses. But the whole thing doesn't make sense, and it's destroying our economy. Next one, please. And I just want to, it's not very clear, but this is really about natural asset corporations and the financialization of nature, and how big corporations are moving in to take over our land. And I know Jeff Pomeroy's here, the farmer from Devon, who understands exactly what's happening to the farmers and how they are being forced out of farming to set up businesses to cover our land in solar panels and wind farms, and to get rid of traditional farming, to get rid of livestock, because in the Absolute Zero document it says no meat, lamb or dairy after 2049. It's all gone. And they've to get to that, they've started now trying to phase it out, because the big corporations have got money invested in all that fake meat, that hideous fake meat and lab-grown meat and 3D printed meat. They want to get rid of our farming, our livestock farming and all farming, and replace it with imports, maybe, I don't know, or starve us, I think, because actually no imports, because by 2049 they don't want any shipping or any planes coming in and out of the UK. So what are we? We're going to starve. Look at these documents; they're really important. Sorry, can we go back to that one? Yeah, that one. I can't remember. I think it's a shame you can't see it. Look it up on the internet. UK fires. Now this was debated in the House of Lords and told to go into immediate action. It's I'll just go back to that one. It said it was commissioned by the UK government from Cambridge and Oxford universities as a think tank. It was read in the House of Lords in 2017 to be implemented as priority. Air travel, shipping and meat production to be phased out between 2030 and 2049. No planes out of the UK by 2049, no shipping in or out of the UK by 2049. No planes in or out of the UK by 2049. No beef or lamb production after 2049. No wood-burning stoves, no gas boilers, no gas appliances. Restrictions on food production, total energy to transport food cut to 60%. Construction, all concretes and mortar to be phased out. Retrofitting of all houses to comply to net zero legislation. Manufacturing reduced by 50% with goods smaller and to last longer. Electricity, wind and solar storage, there's storage problems with that. A fourfold increase in renewables, fossil fuels to be phased out. So that is the future if we allow it, which I know we won't, because they can't do any of this if we don't fund it. In 2023, a new financial instrument was created by the Securities and Exchange Commission at the request of the New York Stock Exchange. Natural asset companies, asset classes or asset corporations are based on environmental stewardship, NACs as they're called. They hold the rights to ecological performance. These companies are given the license to control land, both public and private, and will be required to block any unsustainable activities, such as meat production or dairy farming, that lead to the degradation of ecosystems. So, and I've sort of asked myself a question here. How does a company take control of land and make it profitable while not owning it? Well, it's, they profit from ecological performance such as conservation, restoration, or sustainable management. These are people that assume authority over your land, right? And this is why it's so important I can't remember, so many people have said the farmers just need to say, go away, don't come on my land. Get your gun out. It says here, I wrote this, but I have to try and remember everything of it. The NOCs would quantify and monetize these natural outputs using a system called biodiversity net gain, or BNG. Now, they're talking about this financial instrument because this is how our country is going to be run when it's post-democratic, which is going that way now. It's a bit like using the air that you breathe or any resource as a crypto or fiat currency. These natural assets that would normally profit farmers and landowners would now belong to corporations run by what many people would call environmental special interests. So that's I mean, it's long-winded, and I hope some of you understand it, but that's the research I've done. I don't know how it works, but that's what they're doing. So next one, please. Yeah, now this is environmental and social governance contracts, which most businesses right now are having to adhere to. Thank God I don't have a business anymore, because I would be tearing this all up, because it's absolutely mad. And it's how they will score your business to see if you're worthy of running a business, to see if you're conforming to all their ridiculous climate regulations. And businesses are under scrutiny to conform to environmental and social governance contracts. This will cost them and emerge as a climate tax on every business in the UK. This includes farming businesses too. ESGs force companies to adopt stakeholder capitalism. Now, I hope you all know what stakeholder capitalism is. And are your employees cycling to work? Are you recycling? Are you conforming to eco-regulations? Are you exercising DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion? Are you using clean technology? Are you using sustainable products? Because if you aren't, you get taxed extra for this. And it's worse than that. The paperwork that businesses have to engage in to jump through the hoops of all this is absolutely outrageous. And I'm coming to the end now, because basically no one's coming to save us. The cavalry aren't coming. Next one. They're not coming. And really, should we be happy about owning nothing, or should we take action? And I'll leave that one up to you guys, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Sandi, and what a load more reasons not to pay our council tax. I think you'll agree. I mean, I feel so privileged to have sort of followed Sandi around at events and actually been able to sort out the technical hitch, which I couldn't sort out there. Because what's happened is I've listened and re-listened to Sandi's presentations, and there's so many acronyms in there that we need to get our heads around. So please do watch the recording. Another plug for Simon, because he's doing this for free, basically. WTF is going on official.co.uk and on YouTube. So any questions for Sandi? Question from Brian.
Hello.
Shortly after the election, some very nice people from Black Rock.
There are no nice people in Black Rock.
I know, that was sarcastic. Came to see Starmer, and the farmers wanted to come and see Starmer again, and he said, I cannot see you. So does that mean he's signed something? What do you think?
I think he must have done. He must have done, because if you look at who's buying up the UK, all roads lead to Black Rock, Stateside, and the other one, Vanguard. Yeah, is it Vanguard? Yeah, David.
Yeah, it was Larry Fink that visited
Yes, it
with
was Larry,
Bill Gates. In the last month, BlackRock have purchased £3 billion worth of British housing stock. They have also set up a hedge fund of £100 million to buy up the farms that Starmer's deliberately ruining. Now, that sounds not a lot, 100 million, but if you know what fractional reserve banking is, if you put £1,000 into the bank, they can loan out £10,000. They only have to keep 10% in reserve. So 100 million is £1 billion. So now we've got a fund for £1 billion of farming, and they've already bought up £3 billion worth of housing stock.
Yeah. Gosh, that's frightening, isn't it? Well, there's your answer. Thank you.
Thanks. And you two are in touch, aren't you? Another question over here.
After hearing the presentation, a concern which I have to sort of put into a question is, obviously this sort of information does scare a lot of people, put a lot of people into fear.
Yeah.
And at the sort of the final sort of slides of saying there's nothing coming to save us.
We have to save us.
But what are we talking about? You know, do we have a belief that there is something greater than us that is actually overall going through with
that's an
this?
individual question, but I certainly believe in a higher power that will come and help. Yeah,
that we're actually going through a process.
As individuals have to call on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Very good point.
I didn't mean to scare people. That's a very valid point. I didn't mean to scare people. I've been doing it for 17 years, sadly. But it does work because people are galvanized into action. The minute you see what's wrong, and I know that I'm getting guidance to do the work I'm doing. And I am very grateful for that guidance, and I wouldn't be standing here unless I had proof of that guidance. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Sandi. I understand that most of your research has been done for the UK, but is this the case in other countries?
It's a global agenda.
To the same extent that it's happening here?
Not quite. I think they're using the UK as an example because we're an island, and they are definitely hammering everything they want to achieve globally at us right now. And that's, I think we've had confirmation of that. The fact that the UK is the only country also to have had climate change written into the law. And it was, now which politician was it? Was it, it was Theresa May. Theresa May amended the Climate Change Act of 2008 and upgraded it so that in law now we have to comply to all this nonsense. And it depends what you think of that law. It was the amendment to the Climate Change Act of 2008. And she snuck that in when there was all the debate going on about Boris Johnson, the election and all that kind of stuff. She snuck it in before she left office. And it was done very quietly and very efficiently. So we're the only country in the world to have that. So that's why I think we're being targeted, because all of this rests on climate change. A lot of it, the big money, the big corporations, the green tech, it's all based on climate change. We were sold a big fat lie at the Earth Summit in 1992, where 178 countries were conned into signing up to Agenda 21, and that's what my mission has been. For so many years is making people understand the con of the whole climate change thing, because they replaced climate with control and what they're using to guilt trip everybody. And unfortunately, I live in a town where the Green Council are. I've just been banned from speaking at my own town council, in my own town hall, because the climate tards in there think I'm dangerous. And they Richard was going to speak, and Clive de Carl, they did a hatchet job on Clive as an alternative health practitioner. And I think that the common denominator, they didn't go after Richard quite so much, thankfully, but they did go after Clive and I. And I think it's they've traced fact that I'm working for the column. Clive sells his products on the column, and it's almost a hatchet job. They think the column is right wing, fascist, you name it. You couldn't meet a nicer bunch of people who are speaking the truth, and they want to silence us, And that's happening across the board. We're just a small example of the macrocosm that's happening on our planet. And we've really got to, I'm going to really go for them. I'm going for them. And we that's what we do. Anyway, thank you.
Right, to get back to that question about how we create the new world. For me, it's quite simple. Live my life, be the change I want to see in the world. Live it, do it. Don't wait for it to happen. No. Embody it now as if you're living it. That's the power. And Sandi, it just occurs to me when you were describing the experience at Glastonbury, I mean, the reality is you are the heretic of the day. And we all are the heretics of the day. And to be honest with you, it's a badge we should wear with pride.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, stand up and be a heretic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
Sandi, I just wanted to ask, wanted to tell you, sorry. There's an article in the Plymouth Chronicle about the mayor thing. Would you like me to send it to you?
Yes, I'd love to. I'd love to see it, yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, do you think it would be a good idea if we were to start our own version of ESG and fight fire with fire on the idea of ethical trading?
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of you have probably got small businesses. No large corporation could ever survive a peer-to-peer ethics-based trading platform.
No.
If we launched that, then we would immediately crush all the big players. We'd give small businesses a chance, and we'd keep our money within our own communities. So that's my suggestion for that.
That's a fantastic idea. Thank you. Fantastic.
Ooh, yes. Was there something else here? Sounds like a brilliant idea. And can we elect ourselves as these mayors?
That would be
I elect
nice.
Dave.
One quick question. I can't, it's sort of a question statement. How do the globalists reconcile covering the planet with solar panels and then blocking out the sun with a cloud?
Well, do you know what the thing is? You mentioned that. You mentioned that to any. I've had this out with my own town council. When nothing makes sense, they are still blind to it. This is something that has to be addressed because they've got this cognitive dissonance. They've been brainwashed so successfully that you mention anything. And my biggest argument with them yesterday, because it's funny, because we got such a lot of support for people sending very nasty letters to our town clerk about the ban. The ex-mayor, who is in Extinction Rebellion, I have to say, held a solidarity event at the town cross, the Buttercross, whatever you want to call it, a town cross, yesterday, and she got all the trade unions there, and it was we've got to stop fascism, the fascism that is Sandy Adams and whoever else. These fascists, they talk about control, but they're Tories. They can't get past party politics for a start. They can't see that party politics is non-existent and that we just have global governance now run by the WEF and the UN. They still are playing the game of arguing between each other, between Tories and Labour, and they hate reform and quite, I'm not a reform, but it's all that they put you in a box. They think that because we're talking about technocratic control, that we are with Trump, we're reform, we support reform, and that we're right wing, and that we're racist, and we're anti-Semites as well. They're flinging anything at it. We're homophobic, we're transphobic, we're homophobic. We are just about every phobia. I sort of thought about this, and it was a bit of an oxymoron because it becomes very Monty Python-esque actually, because they've got this banner and it said, "We stand up for women's rights and trans rights." And I thought, well, if that is an oxymoron, and we hate misogyny, and I thought, oh, hang on, is it misogynistic for a man to go into a ladies' loo? I think so. So anyway, it didn't. None of it made sense, and it was a very low vibration event, wasn't it? They think that we're Farage supporters. I don't honestly, they're so
They're all
misguided.
promoted idiots.
They're all bonkers.
They're useful idiots.
They're useful
Promote the most
idiots.
stupid to the highest echelons, and then they'll do what they're told.
Yeah.
It's
But
simple.
they're happy to go along with the
Useful idiots.
technocratic green agenda that is fascism.
Yep.
And that's my point. Is
That's
that
why they're
fascists
useful, and that's why
break
they're
down-
idiots.
They stop free speech as well. So there you go. Yeah.